Welcome to the Bringing the Human Back to Human Resources podcast, the podcast all about the delicate balance between people and business, and quite literally, reconnecting the two. My name is Tracy Rubin, and I've spent nearly my entire professional career in HR. Join me as I share stories, opinions, and words of advice with you each week. Welcome back to the Bringing the Human Back to Human Resources podcast. Thank you for being here for another week. This week we are talking all about those cringeworthy, potentially cringeworthy holiday parties that you are having or had already with your coworkers. And I should add that, I have been there. I have had the pleasure of going to so many holiday parties, and they've always been fun for me. I can't say that I've ever cringed, but I know that there are stories out there that definitely you can feel there was a cringe at some point. So, it's not so easy to navigate holiday parties and the corporate etiquette that comes with holiday parties, so to speak. But I am really looking forward to having this discussion and also sharing some of your stories that I received. Before we jump in, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you are listening to this podcast. And I hope that your end of year is going amazingly. There are literally, by the time this episode comes out, 2 weeks left in the year, which is crazy. So less than 2 weeks, actually. So here we go. Holiday parties. How do we navigate them? I want to talk about first when there is a bar, open bar, cash bar, whatever that bar situation looks like at a holiday party. I want to talk about how you navigate that and, hopefully avoid that next day feeling of like, oh my gosh, what happened? What did I do? So the first thing is give yourself a limit if you are in an environment that maybe is a little bit more formal. Maybe you're not as personally connected with the people that you work with. And, maybe just in general, the environment is not as open. Give yourself a beverage limit. Maybe it's not 2, maybe it's 4. I don't know. You are your own person, so you have to decide what a beverage limit looks like to you. But I think that is a good idea if you are someone who consumes alcohol to give yourself a limit, because at the end of the day, it is a work environment and a lot can happen at a holiday party. The other thing to think about is that, every culture is a little bit different. There are companies whose cultures are like, drink until you can't drink anymore. This is an open environment. Be who you are. Don't worry about it. Like, have fun. And then there are cultures in companies that are way more formal, much more traditional, maybe a little bit more conservative. And so you'll want to think about, what kind of culture do I have? What is my work environment like? So that you can then also safely navigate the bar at your holiday party. And some holiday parties probably don't even have a bar, so maybe you wouldn't have to worry about that. There can be many other things that make you cringe about a holiday party and your etiquette other than drinking and an open bar potentially. So that's the first thing. But again, think about your culture. Where do you work? Who do you work with? And who do you work for? And navigate accordingly. The second thing is, do you have a work crush? Because a lot of people have work crushes. This is a normal thing. And that is why in HR we have these policies around letting us know if you are in a romantic relationship, so that we can help you navigate the environment when you are in a relationship or interested in pursuing a relationship with someone. As it relates to a holiday party, if you have a work crush, maybe the holiday party is not the place to act on that work crush. And here's why. 1, everybody's there. So if you wanted to keep it a crush and not something that you let HR know about, you're not going to keep it a crush at the holiday party if you are, taking your relationship to the next level, so to speak. And, things happen at holiday parties are almost like a different world. It's a different galaxy, let's say. You're teleported into an environment that's, you've worked all year you're stressed, it's the end of the year, you're finishing with a bang, and so you're just like letting loose, right? Whether there's alcohol involved or not, everyone there is just letting loose. And so this different environment calls for different responses and reactions. And I have to say, holiday parties are where I think people are just like the most free and open, and that's why they're so fun. But if you have that work crush and at the holiday party you act on it, is that really how you feel, or is that the holiday party vibes getting to you? So think about that, because once it happens at a holiday party, you can't take it back. Everybody is there. So if your new boo is at the holiday party, make sure it's something that you're not going to regret, in the morning. So good luck. Listen, that comes up a lot, and actually I have some stories to share regarding this. But anyway, so the third thing about holiday parties is that people don't want to talk about work, but they also kind of do. So when I approach a holiday party, the etiquette that I have is that, especially in HR, I will allow the other person to navigate the conversation. So if the other person wants to talk about work or they have an HR question, then yes, definitely, we're having that conversation. But otherwise, people don't really necessarily want to talk about work, with the exception of the executive team that might use that as a way to have a conversation. I know in my past I was seated next to a member of the C-suite, and for sure it was a topic of conversation, like the business, because it was something that we had in common that we were able to speak about. So that makes sense to me. But otherwise, in most cases, people don't want to sit there talking about work and whatever is on their mind and stressful. Find something light to talk about. And actually, I think this is something to take with you as a networking skill. Think of topics that you feel really comfortable talking about. Maybe, like, not the weather, for example, but maybe it's sports, or maybe it's something with the holiday season, or something, I don't know, something going on in current events that's not polarizing. Like, those things, you want to have a few topics that you can think about and talk about just, right away, that will keep a conversation going, because when it comes to networking and socializing, you want to feel comfortable, and you want to have those points of conversation and reference. And if you know the person, or you know what some of their interests are, maybe you think about having one of those things in topics. Like maybe that you're sitting next to someone from the C-suite or someone from a different department. You figure out some of their interests, and then you have that to talk through. So I don't know. That's how I prepare sometimes going into a holiday party, especially in a new company, because you don't necessarily know people that well. And so having some of those ready-to-go topics can be really helpful. The other thing when it comes to not talking about work, the holiday party, that could lead to the cringe, as I'll call it, is that you might, or someone else might, say something about work that you then later would regret. Whether it's someone haphazardly offering someone the opportunity to interview for a role without understanding their background, or, offering a promotion or talking about money. Those things, especially when alcohol is involved, can get very gray and messy. So I would caution you from talking about things that are especially personal finances and things like that relate to work. I would, keep it in the back of your mind that you don't want to go there, because you might regret saying something the next day. Obviously, a lot of these examples are based on, alcohol being involved, but this is where most of the stories that I have that you all submitted to me on Instagram, this is where most of the stories kind of come from. So I'll share my own story first before I share anyone else's story. I will tell you, I am going to be the self-titled queen of holiday parties. I think they are the most fun. I love seeing people get dressed up. I love that people are themselves and open and just wanting to have a good time. And I love that those people who do drink, myself included, that they're just kind of allowing the night to take them where it takes them. So I will tell you, in my past, I won't say when, but in my past, I was at a holiday party and I was passing around shots of uh, probably tequila, to the entire C-suite and as many employees as I could find. Now, this is obviously a corporate holiday party, so there were corporate employees involved, and I do not regret sharing this story, and I won't regret it because I think that it made for a very fun evening. Obviously, if someone was not willing to drink, they did not need to drink, but I was passing them around saying, hey, come on, we did so well this year, we're having a good time, let's all have something together. And so we were all taking a couple shots, and that holiday party was a wild time. I was out until 4 in the morning with some of my colleagues, but I have to tell you, those, like, the next day, even though I couldn't go into work so early, I was looking back on the night and I was like, that was fun. All of those people made my year. Like, that was the way that I want to close out every single year. And it was just, I don't know, I'm telling you, you like teleport, you transport into a totally different environment, and it's so, so much fun. And honestly, like, if anyone here listening ever gets a +1 to a holiday party, like, bring me. I will be a grand old time, and I love an excuse to have a good time. This year, my current company has not yet had their holiday party, so I am hoping that I'm not the only one in this situation that's just dying to have something to celebrate or look forward to. But with COVID and everything spiking, it kind of makes me nervous that the holiday parties just aren't the same anymore. But one day, and soon enough, even if it has to have all of these different requirements, the holiday party will be a blast, because holiday parties are always a blast. So one of the stories that I received was that someone did, and obviously all of this will be remaining confidential, but I received a story where someone said that they did end up acting on their work crush, acting on that feeling, and, without sharing too many details, the next day realized that they acted on their feelings for this work crush, and, that they remember just feeling really excited that they acted on their feelings with their work crush, but also that they basically felt very cringy, and that they specifically somewhat regretted this experience. And this person asked me to share my thoughts on, having a work crush, going to a holiday party, and, going from work crush to work hookup, or whatever the term we want to use is. And so I said to this person, just like I said on the episode so far, that listen, things happen. I would definitely say it's not ideal unless you really intend to pursue the relationship further. But, people are human, and we are all human, and we all have feelings. And, maybe if the feeling was mutual, that means that there could be something in the future. But, it is what it is. I think if it's already happened, and I said that to this person, if it's already happened, it is what it is. Everyone has probably been there at some point in their lives, and you will not be the last person to have this story. So, shake it off. No one's judging you. And if they are, then they need to have a little bit more fun at the holiday party. Now, some of these other stories I think I'll share as questions almost, because some of the details are fairly personal, and so I don't want to give away too much information. But one of the themes is really around, like, how much to drink, and what if you drink too much at the holiday party. Now, before I get into this, because we already kind of talked about this, if you haven't yet seen the TikTok that has gone viral, the TikTok or the reel that's gone viral, of the two people at the holiday party dancing on the table, they clearly are inebriated, or maybe they're not, but it looks that way, and if they're not, then hey, more power to them. And then there's a gentleman behind and a woman in front, and the woman falls flat on her face, and they're cracking up, and the caption basically says, "Don't worry, like, my mouth and chin are fine." Hilarious. It happens at holiday parties, right? But this person is basically saying, like, how do you know how to navigate that, and what happens if you drink too much? So I'm not necessarily saying that those people in the TikTok drank too much, because I think they looked like they had a great time, and it looks like that is probably the culture that their company wants, and I think that's fabulous. Like, we should all have so much fun with our coworkers. And so my message I got a few of these actually. My message to a few of these people who asked this similar type of question or shared a similar type of story is that, they're drinking too much depends on the culture. Drinking too little could also potentially be the culture, especially if there's this, if everyone is, partaking in this environment and feels comfortable, like maybe it's just an environment of, just having fun, letting loose and drinking, and obviously assuming that everyone there is, wants to drink. So I think that is where the culture is so impactful, knowing what your company is like, and also having a trusted coworker. And everyone is different. Some people, don't want to mix business with pleasure, and they're only going to have, maybe a glass of champagne, or maybe they won't drink at all, and then they'll just kind of leave early into the night. But I think that there are people who really let loose, and they have a good time, and whatever that means to them. And so if you are looking to have a limit, then set the limit before the night starts. And if you see that everyone is kind of like pushing their boundaries, maybe the limit is being pushed, maybe others don't have a limit, then I think you should feel okay to like let the limit go. Maybe this is what the environment encourages and allows for us to use as a way to connect and bond. I mean, it sounds like college again, but that's how sometimes some people really connect with one another, and really can feel most comfortable. So I think, drinking too much, definitely if you're getting sick at the holiday party or you're falling over, you potentially have crossed that line. And I would always caution you, like, know when enough is enough, even in an environment that is super, fun and no boundaries, no limits, whatever. You still want to know your limit, because it's just, you don't want to be the person necessarily at the party that got sick early in the night, So ride with the rest of them. Just figure out where you sit amongst your peers and have fun with it, and don't think too much. Just be yourself. You guys know I always say to you, be yourself and have a good time. And if being yourself and having a good time equals drinking water or a soda at the holiday party, then be yourself and have a good time. If being yourself and having a good time means that you're going to have a few shots with the CEO and dance on a table next to, your boss, then great, go for it. But just know what kind of environment you're in, and then be yourself within those parameters. And, I feel like the more holiday parties you go to, especially the more tenured you are in your company, I feel like the easier it is to really, really be authentic at a function that is more casual and more social than being in the office, for example. At the end of the day, it's the holiday season. Let's have fun. Let's have a good time. We had one heck of a year in 2020. We're having one heck of a year in 2021. Have fun and don't think too much about it. And with that, I hope that you enjoyed this episode. Try to keep it light sometimes. This is a nice light episode, So I hope you had a good time. Next week is the last episode of the podcast for the year 2021, which is insane. It'll probably be super, super short because I'm going to give back some time to myself. But at the end of the day, I hope that you are enjoying these topics and conversations. Many of you are reaching out to me on DMs. Please continue to do that. It gives me a lot of insight into what can help you and how much information you'd like to hear from me, or what specifically you'd like to hear from me. So let's stay in touch. And as always, we will continue to meet here on Tuesdays every week for the podcast. Thank you for being here. Follow me on Instagram at HRTracy, and I will see you next week for the very last episode of 2021.